Peppa Pig, Peppa and her golden boots. It was the day of the big puddle jumping competition. Peppa and her friends were practicing jumping up and down in muddy puddles. "My daddy always wins," boasted Peppa. "He said the first rule of puddle jumping is to wear your boots, and mine are very special because they are made of gold." "They are not gold," replied Susie Sheep. "They're yellow." Mouse. "Yes, please," replied everyone. They ran inside, leaving their boots outside the front door. Their boots. "Oh no, my boots have gone," sobbed Peppa. Mr. Zebra arrived with the post. "I've just seen a duck with boots on," he said. Peppa sniffed. "Were they gold?" "No, yellow," he replied. Mrs. Duck came running down the hill wearing Peppa's golden boots. Peppa ran after her. "Mrs. Duck, can I please have my boots back, please?" But Mrs. Duck did not want to give Peppa's boots back. She didn't stop running until she reached Captain Dog's boat. No one could stop Mrs. Duck. Peppa Pig, Peppa meets Kylie Kangaroo. It is a lovely sunny day, and Mr. and Mrs. Kangaroo have come to visit Mummy and Daddy Pig. "G'day, Mr. Pig," says Mr. Kangaroo. "We met at the airport a while ago, and you said we could visit, remember?" "Did I?" replies Daddy Pig, a bit confused. "We didn't have Kylie or Joey back then," adds Mrs. Kangaroo. "Say hello, kids." "Hello, I'm Kylie Kangaroo," says Kylie. "I'm Peppa Pig," snorts Peppa. "And this is my little brother George." "This is my little brother Joey," says Kylie, pointing at Mrs. Kangaroo. Joey lives in Mrs. Kangaroo's pocket. He peeks his head out and surprises everyone. Laughed Peppa and George. Mr. Kangaroo asked Daddy Pig if he's hungry. "I'm always hungry," replies Daddy Pig, rubbing his belly. "No worries," says Mr. Kangaroo, getting out the barbecue. "We'll make lunch for everyone." "Do you like corn on the cob?" asked Mrs. Kangaroo. "Yummy," say Mummy and Daddy Pig. "Let's hope it doesn't rain," says Daddy Pig. "It always rains when we have a barbecue." While lunch is cooking, Peppa and George want to jump up and down in muddy puddles, but they can't find any. "We can still do jumping," says Peppa. "What's this?" Peppa jumps as high as she can. "Now you try, Kylie," she says. Kylie jumps high into the air. "I like jumping too," she says. "Whee!" "Wow!" gasped Peppa and George, amazed. Kangaroos can jump very high. "We're playing jumping," says Peppa when Rebecca Rabbit arrives. "What's this?" squeaks Rebecca, jumping as high as she can. Peppa asks Kylie to show Rebecca how high she can jump. "Wow!" gasped Rebecca, watching Kylie spring up into the air. Pedro Pony bounces into the garden on his space hopper. "Kylie can jump higher than that," says Peppa. "Show him, Kylie." "Wow!" gasped Pedro, watching Kylie leap up into the air. Kylie is the best at jumping because she's a kangaroo. "Food's ready," calls Mr. Kangaroo. But just as they are about to eat, it starts to rain. "Oh dear," sighs Daddy Pig. "No worries," says Mr. Kangaroo, putting up a huge umbrella. "The rain makes eating outside more fun." After they finish their corn, the rain stops and the sun comes out again. "The rain makes lots of muddy puddles too," says Peppa, jumping up and down. "Wow," gasps Kylie. "That looks really fun. Can we try it as well?" Everyone joins Peppa and they all make a giant muddy puddle. "I'm the best at jumping because I'm a kangaroo," says Kylie. "But Peppa is the best at jumping up and down in muddy puddles." The end. Peppa Pig. Richard Rabbit comes to play. Peppa and George are playing in their bedroom. "Let's build a house," says Peppa. "House," snorts George. Daddy Pig shouts up the stairs, "George, Richard Rabbit is here." George's best friend, Richard, has come to play. George doesn't want to build a house anymore. He wants to play catch with Richard. Squeaks Richard. Snorts George. George and Richard start a new game. They turn the bedroom into Dinosaur Land. "Dinosaur! Roar!" roars George. "You're too noisy," says Peppa, "and I've got no one to play with." Mammy Pig invites a friend over for Peppa. Now she has someone to play with too. "George, Richard," shouts Peppa, "Susie is here." Susie Sheep is wearing her nurse's outfit today. Peppa and Susie tidy up George and Richard's toy. "This is not Dinosaur Land," says Susie. "This is a hospital." "A hospital must be kept clean and tidy," adds Peppa. Peppa takes away George and Richard's dinosaurs. "These dinosaurs look ill," she says. "They must go to bed." George and Richard gasp. "Dinosaur!" "Shh," says Susie. "Quiet in the hospital." George and Richard decide to play something else. "Choo-choo! Choo-choo!" The bedroom is not a hospital anymore. Now it is George and Richard's railway station. Peppa and Susie don't want a railway station in the middle of their hospital. "We don't like little children's games," says Peppa. Susie nods. "We like grown-up games." Peppa and Susie get out the dressing up things. Now the bedroom is Fairyland. "There aren't any trains in Fairyland," says Peppa. Susie agrees. "Only pretty things are allowed." George and Richard burst into tears. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig run up the stairs. "What's all this crying about?" they ask. George and Richard don't like grown-up games. Peppa and Susie don't like little children's games. Daddy Pig has an idea. He takes everyone outside. "Look at the muddy puddles," he cries. George and Richard cheer. So do Peppa and Susie. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy puddles. Peppa Pig. Flip Flap Peppa. Peppa loves dressing up.
Wow!
Who will she be today? Peppa is a daring explorer. She's hunting high and low. I'm ready for adventure.
looking for things to discover. Peppa is a grown-up lady. She's going out to the shops, smelling of Mummy Pig's perfume.
Wow! Look at my lovely shoes.
Peppa is a brave firefighter. She's ready for an emergency, wearing yellow waterproofs.
Everything is under control.
Peppa is a caring nurse. She's always ready to help with her first aid kit.
I'll make you better, George.
Peppa is a flying superhero. She's disguised in a shadowy mask, wearing a magic super cape.
I will save the day.
Peppa is a fairy tale princess. She lives in a royal palace with her little pet mouse.
Let's ride in our carriage, Sir George.
Peppa is a clever scientist. She wants to zoom into space in her powerful rocket.
I love looking at the stars.
Peppa is a hungry tiger. She's prowling through the jungle with her animal friends. Peppa is a seafaring pirate. She's about to sail the ocean blue, looking for some treasure.
Ahoy there, me hearties!
Peppa is a magic witch. She can fly through the starry skies on her magical broom.
I'll turn you into a frog.
The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.